You are 8 years old, and you are already invisible. You are the youngest of 8 sons, which means you are last. And last in your world means forgotten. Your father Jesse counts his sons the way a merchant counts coins, and he stops at 7. You know the fields east of Bethlehem better than you know your brothers' faces, because the fields are where they send you, every morning before the sun, with the flock and the silence and nothing else. The hills smell of dry stone and heat. You carry a sling at your hip and a staff in your hand, and you walk the perimeter of the flock the way a soldier walks a camp, because the hills demand it. There are lions out here. You know it from tracks, from the way the sheep cluster before dawn, from the sound the brush makes when something large moves through it without wanting to be heard. One morning, the lion comes, not like in stories. It comes fast, and it has a lamb in its jaws before you have finished your breath. Something in you that does not ask permission takes over. You close the distance, seize the lion by the mane, drive your fist into its jaw until the lamb is free and the lion is dead at your feet. You stand over it, breathing hard. The flock is already grazing. There is no witness except the hills. Weeks later, a bear. The same field, the same hands, the same silence after. You learn something in that silence. God can be present in a moment no human eye will ever see. Courage practiced in private is still courage. The shepherd who protects what is entrusted to him, even when no one is watching, is already something the world does not yet have a name for. You smell of sheep and stone, and God is paying very close attention to a boy that no one else bothered to watch. The next time something comes for what belongs to you, your hands will already know exactly what to do. You are 15. It is an ordinary afternoon, the kind that does not announce itself as the last of something, and a man named Samuel has arrived in Bethlehem. The elders met him at the gate with trembling hands because this man's voice has started and ended kingdoms. Jesse calls his sons. He calls Eliab first, the tall one, the one who looks the way a king is supposed to look. Samuel's face opens like a door, then closes. No, God sees differently than men do. Men see the outside, God sees beneath it. Abinadab, no. Shammah, no. Each brother steps forward and Samuel's face closes a little more each time. And Jesse watches with a dread that is becoming specific. Samuel looks at your father and asks if these are all the sons. There is a pause before Jesse answers, a pause that contains your entire childhood. He says there is still the youngest. He says it the way people name things they did not expect to need. He is with the sheep. They send for you. You come in from the field with the smell of the hills on your clothes and the sun still in your eyes, and Samuel looks at you once, and there is no pause. He opens the flask of oil. He walks toward you, and in front of your father and your brothers, the oil runs down over your hair, and the presence of something enormous and invisible fills the room like pressure before a storm. Samuel says nothing to explain it. He closes the flask. He leaves. Your brothers do not speak. You stand with oil drying on your forehead, and no one has given you a crown or a map of what comes next. You go back to the sheep. The oil runs down your hair. No one understands, not even you. Saul still wears the crown. But somewhere in the throne room, the king wakes from nightmares he cannot name. You are 17. The valley of Elah is a throat of stone, and the Philistine army lines the ridge to the south like a row of teeth. You are here only because your father sent you with bread for your brothers, who are soldiers in Saul's army. You arrive carrying a cloth sack that smells of grain, and find an entire army that has forgotten how to move. Every morning, for 40 days, the same thing happens. A man walks out of the Philistine line, Goliath of Gath, over 9 feet tall, his armor alone heavier than you are. He shouts his challenge across the valley, and the soldiers of Israel move backward, not running. The involuntary movement of bodies that have been reminded they are breakable. You ask the men near you what will be given to the man who kills the Philistine. Your brother Eliab hears you and turns with a contempt too fast and too prepared. He tells you to go back to your sheep. He tells you this is not your place. You look at your brother. You look at the valley. You ask one more question, quieter, almost to yourself. Who is this Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? They bring you to Saul. The king looks at you the way adults look at things that should not be where they are. You tell him about the lion. You tell him about the bear. You say it slowly, with the weight of a man who lived through something and is not performing it. You say the God who delivered you from the lion will deliver you from this Philistine. Saul says, "Go." You refuse his armor. You take your sling, and you choose 5 smooth stones from the stream bed, feeling their weight the way you have done 10,000 times in the fields. Goliath sees you coming and laughs. He curses you by his gods. He tells you he will give your flesh to the birds. Your answer is steady. You tell him you come in the name of the God he has defied. Then you run toward him. The stone leaves the sling the way it has 1,000 times on 1,000 hillsides. The valley shakes when the giant falls. God needed someone willing to run downhill toward the thing every other man ran away from. That is what you will spend your life learning you were willing to do. You are 18. The women of Israel line the road singing, and the song is beautiful until you understand the words. Saul has killed his thousands, they sing, and David his 10,000s. You watch Saul's face when he hears it. Something moves behind the king's eyes, fast, like a shadow behind a curtain, and then the curtain closes. You are now in the palace. You play the harp for the king when the dark moods come, and the music reaches something in Saul that nothing else can reach. His son Jonathan finds you and makes a covenant with you, giving you his robe and his armor as if they were always yours, and he is simply returning them. You do not know what to do with a love that asks nothing, so you receive it quietly. One morning, you are playing the harp and the javelin is in the air before you have registered the king's movement. It splits the air beside your head and buries itself in the wall. You are out of the room before the harp stops vibrating. Your wife Michal sees soldiers in the courtyard that night. She lowers you from the window in the dark, and you drop to the ground outside the palace walls and run. And the sound of your own feet in the night is the sound of a chapter ending. You are anointed king. You are sleeping in caves. Both are true at the same time. You are 20. The caves of En-Gedi run deep into the limestone above the salt sea, and you have gathered around you 400 men. Men in debt, men in distress, men whose lives have come apart. They look to you the way the sheep used to look to you. They are waiting to see if you know where the water is. One afternoon, Saul enters the cave alone. He does not know you are deeper in the shadows. Your men come to you immediately, their eyes bright. This is the moment, they say. God is delivering your enemy into your hand. Kill him and go home. You lie still in the dark for a long moment. Then you move, not toward the king's neck, toward the hem of his robe. You cut a corner, nothing more, and move back into the shadows. When Saul leaves, you come out into the light and call his name. The king turns, you bow. You hold up the corner of the robe. You tell him you will not lift your hand against the anointed of God, whatever he does, because that is not who you are. Saul weeps. He calls you my son. He says you are more righteous than he is. Then he goes back to his camp. You return to your men, and you know, because you have spent your life reading living creatures, that the man who wept and called you son will be back with his 3,000 by morning. The mercy in your hand is cleaner than any victory that blade could have given you. A victory bought with Saul's blood would have made you exactly what you refused to become. But it will not end the night. You are 29. A courier finds you in Ziklag with a torn robe, and before he speaks you already know. Saul is dead. Jonathan is dead. The battle at Mount Gilboa broke Israel like a dry branch. You tear your robe, you weep. You fast until evening, and you sing a lament for Saul and Jonathan, a song of genuine grief for the man who spent years trying to kill you and the friend who gave you everything. Your men expected relief. What they get is a man sitting in the dust composing a song about his enemies. They do not understand. They follow you to Hebron anyway. The men of Judah meet you there. Oil runs down your hair again, in public this time, in front of an army instead of a room. This anointing is not secret. It is political and dangerous. Saul's son, Ishbosheth, holds the north, and the war between the two houses will last 7 more years. 7 years of being almost king, of holding the south while the north remains separate, of letting the promise come on its own schedule. When the elders of all Israel finally come to Hebron, you are 37 years old. 22 years have passed since Samuel's oil ran down your face in your father's house. The crown is heavier than the oil ever was. The song of Jonathan still lives in your chest, aching and whole. But the kingdom needs a king, so you stand up. You are 38. Jerusalem sits on its ridge like a locked room. The Jebusites inside say the blind and the lame could defend it against you. Your commander Joab takes the city through the water shaft the Jebusites assume no army would use. By nightfall, the city of David exists. You build. Cedar from Hiram of Tyre, a palace that smells of fresh cut wood. Philistine armies come twice more and break twice more. And both times you ask God before moving. And both times God answers differently, and you do exactly what you are told. But what matters most is the ark. The golden chest of the covenant has been sitting neglected in Kiryat Yearim for 20 years, and you want the presence of God at the center of the city, the way it has always been at the center of your life. The first attempt to bring it goes wrong. A man named Uzzah reaches out to steady the ark and dies, and you stand in the road with fear in your chest where joy used to be. You leave the ark at the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months because you do not know how to carry holiness correctly, and you know it. When you return, you do it right. Priests carry the ark according to the law, and every 6 steps you stop and offer sacrifice. The procession takes all day. You dance, not the careful movement of a king maintaining his image. You dance with everything, leaping in the linen of a priest, indifferent to how it looks, because this moment has nothing to do with how it looks. The boy from the fields is still in there. He was never replaced. He was only covered for a time by the weight of all the years. Your wife Michal watches from the window with cold eyes. Later, she says the king made a spectacle of himself. You tell her you will be even more undignified than this, and you mean it without regret. The ark is home. God is at the center. And for this one evening, everything is right. You are 50. It is spring, the season when kings go out to war, and you have stayed home. You walk the rooftop of your palace in the evening when the city cools below you, and you look down and you see a woman bathing, and she is beautiful, and that is all it takes. You ask who she is. The answer contains a warning you choose not to hear. She is Bathsheba, wife of Uriah the Hittite, one of your 30 mighty men, who is at war fighting for you at Rabbah. You send for her anyway. The king sending for someone is not an invitation. Uriah is too far away to protect her from the weight of the crown you are carrying wrong tonight. When the message comes that she is pregnant, you send for Uriah, hoping he will go home to his wife and cover what you have done. But Uriah sleeps at the palace door with the servants because he will not go to his home while the ark and the armies sleep in tents. He is too honorable to save you from yourself. So, you write a letter. You write it in your own hand. Put Uriah at the front of the hardest fighting, then withdraw so that he dies. You give the letter to Uriah to carry. He carries his own death warrant to the front, unopened, trusting you because he is that kind of man. Uriah dies. You take Bathsheba as your wife, and something inside you seals shut, a door that used to open easily, and you do not yet know what it will cost to break it back open. You are 51. The prophet Natan comes with a story. A rich man with many flocks, a poor man with 1 lamb that slept in his arms and drank from his cup. A traveler comes to the rich man, who takes the poor man's lamb instead of his own. You hear this, and the anger rises clean and fast. You say the man deserves to die. Natan says, "You are the man." The words land like the stone in the valley. You are the man. You are the rich man who took the one thing that did not belong to you. And Uriah is dead in the field. Something breaks open in you, not with excuses, not with defense. You say, "I have sinned against God." 3 words. The most important sentence a king can say. Natan says God has taken away your sin. You will not die, but the sword will not leave your house. You fast for 7 days for the child that was born. You lie on the floor and will not eat. On the 7th day the child dies, and you get up, wash, and eat. Your servants do not understand. You tell them, while the child lived there was still a question. Now the question is answered. You cannot bring him back, but you can go to him. From that grief, another child is born to Bathsheba. His name is Shlomo. God loves him. There is grace even at the bottom of where you have been. But the sword is in the house, and it will not stay quiet. You are 60. Your son Avshalom has been standing at the city gate for years, hearing grievances, stealing hearts, turning the people toward himself, one by one. The messengers find you in the morning. Avshalom has declared himself king in Hebron. All Israel has gone after him. You make your decision before the sentence is finished. You tell your household to go. If Avshalom reaches Jerusalem and you are inside it, the city will be destroyed in the fighting. Better to leave. Better to keep Jerusalem alive. So the king of Israel walks out of his city on foot, barefoot, head covered, weeping, the entire household weeping behind him on the road over the Mount of Olives. A man named Shimei comes out to throw stones and curse you. Your servants want his head. You say, let him curse. Maybe God told him to. Maybe God is looking at what you have done and saying, let him curse David. You say it while being stoned in exile from your own city. The restraint is the same restraint that held the knife in the cave at En-Gedi. You are a man who has done terrible things and suffered their full weight. And you are still underneath all of it, the same person. The war goes to the forests of Ephraim. You give your commanders one instruction they cannot misunderstand. Be gentle with my son. You will not get to honor it yourself. A runner comes after the battle with careful words that mean Avshalom is dead. And you go up to the room over the gate, and the sounds that come out of you are not the sounds of a king. My son, Avshalom. You wish it were you instead. You say it without anything a king is supposed to maintain. The sword has finished its passage through your house, and you are still standing. You are 70. The cold lives in your bones now, the kind that blankets do not reach. Your kingdom is mostly at peace. The wars are finished. The succession is settled. Shlomo will be king after you. But there is one thing left. One thing that has been building since the night you sat in the cedar palace and thought, I live in a house of cedar, and the ark lives in a tent. You could not build the temple yourself. Your hands have shed too much blood. The blood of wars and of Uriah. The blood of the complicated life of a man who loved God genuinely, and failed God genuinely, and was forgiven genuinely. Clean hands are required. Shlomo's hands are still clean. So, you give him everything you gathered, gold and silver and bronze and iron and cedar beyond counting, all of it pointed toward a house where the presence of God will live in stone instead of tent, where every generation after you can come and stand and know that the God of Israel was real and specific in here. You give him the plans, you give him the charge. Be strong, be courageous, do not be afraid. God will not leave you until the work is finished. You say it because it is the truest thing you know, the thing the fields taught you before you had words for it. God does not abandon what God has chosen, even when the chosen one has given God every reason to. You lie back. The hands that held the sling and the harp and the sword and the pen that wrote the letter and the floor beneath you when you prayed for a dying child, these hands are still. The plans are in Shlomo's keeping. The shepherd boy from Bethlehem became everything he was promised to be, and it cost everything it costs to become something real. The forgotten became the found. The hunted became the king. The man who fell became the man who sang his way back from the floor. The God who chose the forgotten shepherd still chooses the broken. He always has. The story is not finished. You are in it.